Hey guys, what's up? It's Iflynn here, and welcome to the first ever episode of What's Up with Warframe, a weekly podcast that I'm going to be hosting along with 3 other Warframe content creators or Twitch streamers. Today we're just going to be talking about the dev stream just passed. Let me just establish this isn't going to be like a super serious podcast. We are going to be chill about it, just giving our opinions on what's going on with the Warframe community and hopefully guiding it in a positive direction. So here today I'm with Anubify, Severed Sanity, and Gamer Guru 21. So if they want to talk and introduce themselves, they can. I'm going to shut up now so they can talk, and yeah. And nobody talks. This is great.
Hello!
Severed, you're first.
Hello, I'm Severed Sanity. What do I say?
I don't know. I mean, what was your opinion on the passive?
What? We have everybody introduce themselves first.
I know.
Introduce yourself and tell someone what you do. I.e.,
Yeah.
Are you a Twitch streamer? Are you Twitch and YouTube? Or are you a website-based Warframe creator?
Okay. What's up, guys? Severed Sanity here. I was a Warframe streamer. I'm working on getting into YouTube instead. It's a relatively recent switch that I am currently in the process of.
What's up, guys? My name is Anubify. I am a Warframe content creator on Twitch and on YouTube. I'm primarily focused on helping you beginner Tenno out there in getting the best experience possible.
Gamer Guru, you gonna...
Ow.
There you go.
My name's Hi, I'm Game Guru 21. Twitch.tv Game Guru 21. It's not over until GG. I'm also a Warframe partner and content creator.
Alright, so you can tell that this isn't rehearsed at all. This is going to be really fun. But as I said at the start, we're just going to be going through the dev stream and giving our opinions on it. Sev wanted to point out that one of the developers were drunk. So, Sev.
What? Whoa. I didn't say that.
I mean, you did.
Did I?
I mean,
I'm not going to lie to my viewers, you did.
I mean, I might have been drunk when I said that.
Maybe. But... yeah.
Sheldon was drunk.
Shots fired.
To be fair, he did start the stream by stumbling over everything, kicking down a beer, and then spilling some more.
Smashing into his mic.
Before then sitting on the couch and not really moving the rest of the stream.
Alright, so anyways, what was everyone's thoughts and opinions on the dev stream in general? Was it let's say, would you watch it again to get, like, information out of the dev stream? Something that you were actually interested in hearing about, or something that sort of excited you for the direction of Warframe or anything like that there? Was anything like that there present within today's dev stream?
I'd say no. I found it lacking, if I'm honest. People wanted to know about Update 19. They were unclear on things yet again. They just keep bypassing the major topics of when are we getting these things? What things are we going to address with patches? What bugs we're going to fix? And they just keep avoiding it. They just keep coming on about new game modes when there are serious problems in the game. So many problems. Yeah, they're just dangling it there.
I think the hype is cool to it. I was really excited for the new Prime stuff, and I figured that would be the focus. But it seemed more like a side note to it. But I did go back and I've rewatched all the Valbon stuff a couple times because I'm honestly really excited for any new frames and new primes. New content's always cool. But I was looking forward to some new stuff on the fairy frame. But like we didn't even get. They said the poll's done for the names, but unless I missed it, they didn't say what the names were, even though they already know what like the voting options are. So I was a little
because that's all kept within the design council, I believe. I think they're actually they haven't even decided on the final design for the frame yet, if I'm reading this right. But
they told us Ivara's choices of names.
Yeah, I think that kind of just slipped out in the dev stream though.
Was it?
I don't know, but yeah, Gamer Guru, what's your take on it? I mean,
Considering I didn't watch it.
Yeah, like that makes total sense. So yeah, if you were to watch it, like you've read the list of things, what would you be going there to see?
I mean, my thing, I've looked over this thing a million times, and I agree that there wasn't a lot of, like, there's a lot of like rework stuff that they're always putting into everything. So the Vol rework, the Mag rework, but we've known about those for a while. That's not new news to us.
And we've also seen them a little bit before as well.
Yeah, the Prime Access stuff we've known about, but that video from PAX East, such a good video. But the passives are probably like, I've always said that, you know, the passives needed reworked, and I'm pleasantly surprised that they're actually going that way. It's nice to know that, you know, now if Ember gets set on fire, you know, it actually does something relevant and doesn't hurt Ember, which always confused me.
Yeah, actually going into the passives, what do you guys think of like individual passives for particular frames? Like Gamer Guru brought up the point of Embers. I believe that when set on fire, she gains an increase in damage plus energy regeneration.
Correct.
It says when she's set on fire, which I'm going to assume that means when she gets procced by fire, not whenever she takes fire damage. So, for example, you'd have to stand in front of a scorch enemy to get procced by that fire element before you would receive that buff. Do you think that's a little bit underwhelming in terms of, okay, I'd have to actually stand there and take a shit ton of damage to get procced, and by the time that I maybe do get procced, I might already be dead?
I mean, I
think that depends on implementation. I feel like the way they told the passives here, some of them are like, you know, obviously fleshed out. I think that Ashes with his bleed and stuff like that, like the duration increase and damage increase on that, and Loki's with his wall grab, those are fleshed out. But the way they implement Embers is really going to be important. I mean, just because you get set on fire doesn't mean you don't take damage from it. So are you taking damage from that fire proc, or what's going on there could also come into play.
We talked about this earlier, Flynn.
Yeah,
you've got to purposely take damage, as Severed said. But at higher levels, that damage is going to be one-shotting you. So your proc isn't actually going to be beneficial. It's actually going to be detrimental, counterproductive to what you want to achieve. We thought she should actually be resistant to fire damage, i.e. she takes reduced damage if you've got a scorch flamethrower in you, as opposed to trying to say, oh yeah, but if you take loads of damage, at lower levels is great. At high levels is pointless.
Yeah, so to make it more viable in the later game, we need to make it so that there is a way for you to mitigate the damage that's being dealt via the particular damage source, so you get the buff and it's actually beneficial instead of being a detriment to the actual player.
Many passives, looking at them, really aren't that viable late game. I mean, Frost's passive is if he gets hit, he has a chance of freezing someone. But again, like you said, you get hit late game, you're down.
Yeah. Well, why didn't they do that? We said, why didn't they make Volt more resistant to electrical damage, Frost more resistant to cold damage? Because that's really OP in the game at the moment. When you get frozen, impeded by frost damage, it is really strong. Why can't Frost be a little bit more resistant?
I agree with that.
It makes no sense in the first place when you read the backstory of these frames in the first place that they actually should even be affected at all by any of the statuses in the first place. Like, why is Ember actually being lit on fire? She's always on fire. She's the bloody Warframe of fire.
She's super powerful Tenno that is obsessed with fire. That's her speciality, yet it can kill her.
It's like it never made any sense to me, and it's like, I mean, even doing something like Oberon's obviously the radiation frame for the most part when it comes down to it. So he can dish out all this radiation and stand in his own radiation, all that, but God help him if he gets hit by another radiation proc, the dude drops like a sack of bricks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it leaves the question, like, why weren't these things thought through beforehand? Why weren't they implemented into the game? And that's a question that not only we're asking, but a lot of the community are asking who are, actually interested and invested in said particular frames. There's a lot of these passive abilities that you're sitting and looking at and you're saying, why would I ever use that? Like the Loki infinite wall latching. That's something that's pretty cool, but you're like, did I really want that? It's just a cool perk to have. The mag bullet jumping sucks items like a vacuum effect. Everyone uses Carrier already, so,
The problem with that, though, Flynn, the carrier, you say everyone uses carrier. As a new player, if you start off with mag, that bullet jump is going to be great. That's going to be great. That's the only
time it's going to be good.
But the carrier costs, 250,000 credits? So for a new player, they can't get a carrier. So at late game, that bullet jump becomes redundant. But in the early game, it's really, really viable.
Now, the
Alright.
question is also, does that haul in all items for all people, or is it the same way it is now where it's only affecting mag
Selfish.
items?
Yeah,
I'm
selfish.
guessing it'll only be the selfish mag.
So yeah, they need to, again, clarity. That stream didn't clarify anything. It just said, well, we might have to separate some things out of update 19. Here's the passives, but we're not actually going to tell you how they properly work. You know, the elemental ones were probably the simplest to sort out, and they seem to have gone the completely opposite way.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely true.
I mean, there's one thing that somebody also brought out to me that I thought would be cool that hasn't been implemented, but I've seen a lot of it talk on in the forums. Combination strikes. So obviously you put cold and fire together. What does that equal? Blast. So if a frost bubbles and a ember drops or 3 at the same time and they collide, why doesn't a blast proc occur? And it wouldn't be that hard to code it.
Yeah, that sounds pretty interesting.
But then they couldn't make an explosion Warframe.
No, great. Just what we need. You know what? Let's just go the way. Let's just go the way of what was it? Avatar: The Last Airbender, and get the one dude with the little knot on his forehead that shoots explosives. Sparky, boom, man.
Is that the name of the Warframe?
Yes, we will. Done. Sparky, boom, man.
Right.
Sparky, boom, man prime. Confirmed.
For those that watched it though, whose passive do you think's the best? What they showed out of the ones they showed, which ones do you think? Well, which one do you think was the best out of them?
That's a hard one. I would probably go for the Trinity faster ally revives at a larger range.
Yeah, that's
granted, if you're playing a Blessing Trinity, you should never really need to use that. But if you're playing a Eevee, I mean, you can see that coming into effect. At the same time, though, there's a focus skill tree which completely makes that irrelevant.
Yes.
So
you get 4 or 5 instant revives every time you reset.
Yeah, depending on the rank of the skill tree you're using or whatever. Sev, what about you?
I think my favorite, even before I found out that so my favorite was Necros, and this was actually before I found out that his Shadows of the Dead counts as enemies, which is even more cool. But I think that's one of the passives that kind of translates really well even into late game, because it's just something that's always going to be on. There's nothing you have to do to trigger it or anything like that. Because there are certain passives that work really well with that.
You stole mine. That's my favorite too.
Yeah, so Necros' passive is nearby enemy deaths give Necros back some health. Now that's pretty OP. And it says nearby enemy deaths. So does that count for the entire team killing enemies, or does that just count for Necros' kills?
I think it'll be a radial team. So within a certain radius, if team members are killing, I reckon it'll impact then, trigger it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, really, the one that still makes the most sense to me in the concept of who the frames are is still Volt. Like, Volt probably has the most well thought out for what the frame is passive to me, along with Ember, so long as, she actually doesn't get damaged by fire.
And Hydroid.
Hydroid was pretty good. The ground slams summoning tentacles. But Severed's right. Well, I'd agree with Severed. With Necros' Shadows of the Dead, especially with the augment for it, because you get a stupidly tanky Necros that's going to become nigh impossible to kill. He has Terrify, he has damage mitigation, health regen. How you can stop him?
Maybe now people will stop forcing people to play Desecrate Necros.
Oh God! Hopefully they'll finally do that. Yeah. Play tanky Necros for the win, boys. Tanky Necros.
Okay. I still laugh as people sat there and used to do that all the time to me, and I'd sit there and be like, okay, I bet you come. So I'd go out and I'd kill 20 enemies, and then I'd be in the defense, and every time the defense started, I'd hit my 4, and I'm like, I'm not going to shoot my guns, and I'd still get more kills. It's like, so my minions are beating you.
So to save us from sticking on the passive for so long, because there's a lot of things that we could talk about whenever it comes to the passives, we can go into, why said Warframe has said passive or whatever. Let's jump on to the Bobbins rework, which is something that I was actually talking to my other Discord friends, people that I talk to in the Discord, about. Wow, sad face. the Vauban rework, basically they used Ivara. So basically how Ivara works with pressing 1 over and over again, and you're able to swap between different sort of styles of arrow, I guess. They're doing the same with Vauban, and you're doing the same with his little balls. So you're able to swap between different balls and then use them against your enemies. Now, yeah, that kind of sounds weird, but someone who mains Vauban want to, go on about how the balls affect your gameplay experience?
I mean, Vauban's always been a bigger CC frame than a damage frame, so I'm hoping that this is actually going to bring up his damaging thresholds a little bit. But the fact that he now has this like a grenade for every situation, radial stun and deafening, which I don't understand the deafening concept, but armor reduck, the tripping hazard. I mean, he basically has a system now that not only does he have this Bastille, if something actually gets inside the Bastille, he has these grenades that he can actually use for extra CC and hopefully damage.
Yeah, so Vauban is sold to us as a utility frame, and they're giving him damage to kind of, I would say, complement his utility. And Anubify brought up a point within his stream saying that Vortex should be removed because it doesn't fit the style of Vauban. If you want to expand on that a little.
Yeah, he's a tactical. The descriptions of the frames, Vauban is classified as a tactical frame. Yeah, you've got your Bastille, that is tactical. You've got your Tesla wall that you can create with his one, that is tactical. Now you've got the trick grenades, essentially. They're all tactical in nature, but the Vortex doesn't do anything other than just disrupt and cause major screen glare. It's not tactical, it's not really useful, it's not high damaging, it does nothing to actually support the team, apart from trap a few enemies. If you get a few ancients trapped in there, killing them is harder, it's significantly harder. So I think they need to take that out and think of a different tactical thing that, people were bringing up turret ideas, but you have a ship with a turret now. Just some form of supportive, maybe a damage boost or health regen pads that you were on about. Just small things. Doesn't have to be massive. Just small things that are tactical in nature. Vortex isn't tactical at all. Doesn't suit his profile.
There was actually something that was brought up in one of my streams before by another person who had basically the same idea you did. And it was brought up after, I can't even remember the name of the ship. The one that has the drop turret.
It's the latest one, isn't it? I forgot what the ship's called.
Starts with an S, doesn't it?
It's a scimitar, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's that one.
But
yeah, I think
now
so.
that they've set out these grenades, this can even work even better. But it was basically, originally we thought it'd be cool to give him this turret. And it basically, you can pick secondary or primary, and you drop this turret, and it just basically shoots for you. Now, this sounds OP, but it's basically just adding a turret, and it has a limited range capability so that you have the ability to bunker down or hold an area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, with the new grenades in play, instead of doing that, maybe you can sit there and pick your grenade and then put the thing down, and then maybe it just, shoots off a few grenades in an area depending on range.
See, Vauban's a really interesting frame because it takes so many different factors into account whenever you are modding him. So whenever we're talking about the range of a turret, how long it stays up for, the amount of damage that it might do, you have to take all of that into consideration whenever you're modding, and that's what I find interesting about Vauban. He is one of these really versatile frames that offers that choice to the player. You can go for a max range, max duration Vauban. However, your Bastille is going to be a little bit lacking because of the lack of power strength. So then you're going to have to put on his augment mod. The name escapes me right now, which basically is only somewhat effective versus infested because they can't use ranged weapons. So he's one of those interesting frames in a sense that he's really versatile and he has so many different play styles. It's implementing that there in with the new abilities that they're trying to give him.
Well, his abilities keep him alive, don't they? Let's be honest. Like,
Yeah,
all of his
'cause-
abilities work. Well, now they're going to work in better synergy with one another, meaning you can literally control the fight, essentially.
I will say that his so the fact that they took his bounce previously, and that's what they changed all these things on, and then they kept Tesla on the 1 was a little weird to me. I felt like you could just get rid of the bounce entirely and then put Tesla on that 2 and give him a brand new ability, something completely different. Right now he has a grenade on that first one in Tesla that really feels like it fits with everything else that he throws out with his new stuff, like the tripwire, the concussive grenade, all that kind of stuff. Just feels like it fits really well with that. It doesn't really belong by itself.
yeah, I definitely agree with that.
What about the weapon choices for that Prime set, though? Like, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Would you have chosen the Fragor and the Axe Skeleto?
I mean, what other weapons would you really like? Whenever it comes down to priming weapons, I don't really care. I know that it has to stay alongside. It has to be a Tenno weapon in Origin, so it has to either come from the Tenno lab or just be a weapon based around the Tenno design or Warframe design. I definitely get that. But whenever it comes down to how they choose these weapons, I think that needs to be taken, or someone needs to take a look at that, because I just feel like the Fragger was such a random choice. You have one really bad weapon alongside one really good weapon, which is the Axe Skeleto, I think.
Yeah.
They did a secondary last time as well.
Yeah, exactly. So there needs to be more of a trend in how the weapons are chosen, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the Tiburon could be looked at as a Tenno weapon in Origin as well. So you could take Electron Prime to make the Tiburon Prime, and then that way people who played the game way back whenever the Electron was out or was around for the latest unvaulting would have Electron Prime, and then they'd get access to the Tiburon Prime. And then that would make more of an incentive towards getting the Electron Prime.
Yeah,
I wanted a bow, believe it or not. I'm not a bow user, so I don't use any like Paris Prime dreads. But I wanted either a Deku or a Cernos, but we've already had the Mutalist Cernos so soon, so I'd have probably gone Deku.
Yeah, it'd probably be the Deku Prime.
That's what I'd have chose.
That would be awesome. I'm an advocate for bows. The Deku is the one I really don't use, but I love the Cernos, and I've never tried to hide that. It's my favorite weapon in the game. In all honesty, I love using bows. It just feels right. Like you're supposed to be a ninja, So to me, it always just felt right.
The primaries with it, well, they've done secondaries. I was expecting a primary. When I was streaming that, I was saying to him, yeah, it's definitely going to be a primary and a melee. And then they released another secondary. I was like, but there's no point. You brought out the Spearer last time. So why don't you give me a primary now, finally? Give me a bow, because you only have the Paris Prime.
But if they were the primary, which primary would you want?
As I said, Deku. I'd go for the bow. I don't use bows, but I'd go for a bow, because then you've got something to compare against the Paris Prime.
But then someone would argue, that doesn't really fit the theme of Vauban. It's like,
I guess it doesn't. That's the problem, yeah.
I guess they kind of chose the Fragor and the Askeleto to kind of market Vauban.
Yeah.
Like the trailer. I mean, those two weapons, they do fit really well. Going with
you
Vauban,
said was it
the Tiburon? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be not just because I don't think it would fit Vauban per se, but I think it would be an interesting weapon that would be prime, because it's one of these weapons that was put in with the high sort of build requirement. And I just feel as if, that weapon, the original version of that weapon was so lackluster, why not redeem that weapon's name by making a really badass Prime version of it, which you actually have to put effort in to make.
Yeah.
That's just my thoughts on it. I do like burst weapons. For some reason in Warframe, I like all those sort of types of weapons because they just feel really good. I just feel as if the Tiburon's name has to be redeemed because of how lackluster the original version was.
I mean, the only problem is that that's actually been gone through before, the concept of having a prime that levels into another prime kind of thing. Like that's been gone over before, like Lotto Prime, Lex Prime, Sicarus Prime, obviously having an Axe version of that so that, you can get the Axe Lex Prime or the Axe Sicarus Prime or Axe Vosto Prime or whatever. But The problem is that obviously, the Lado, obviously you can't get multiple of, but the Sycaris Prime is now gone. And eventually, it's going to go the same way of Latran Prime and all the others, where it's just going to eventually leave. So people who are sitting there and farming to get all this stuff together to build this Tiburon Prime can't build it because they don't have the Latran Prime. So now they have to wait for either Warframe to bring out like a Prime pack from the grave, which would be a nice moneymaker for them, don't get me wrong.
They've done that in the past.
Yes. Or redo what they did this past winter and just do an open up for the month and then get rid of them again constantly. But there's more stuff that's going to be constantly going into the vault as well.
Or there's also the opportunity to, if you wanted to do something like that with the Latran Prime, make it come back when the Tiburon Prime comes out. Like, make it come back and it'll stay out. Those parts will stay out for as long as the Tiburon Prime would be there. And then you go from there.
I don't see how that would be a bad idea, because you're just giving more content for newer players to go and get in the Void, because the majority of the time spent in Warframe is usually the Void, because it's like you have an incentive to go there to get this new cool weapon. Like, newer players don't really, I'm not going to say they don't look at the stats, but they don't really, know the difference between a good prime weapon compared to an original weapon, so they're going to go and get that so they can experience said weapon for themselves. So I just feel as if that's bringing more content into the game. I don't necessarily understand why they are removing primes from the game when they have the Orkin Derelict that they could throw primes into, like older primes. But I'm sure they have a reason behind that. I'm not sure if they've made like a forum post on it, but
I'm sure they said it was server related last time.
Server related?
Yeah, it was something about some form of memory or something to do with their servers. They didn't have enough space. They are in the process of upgrading it. They said it on, I think it was about 5 or 6 dev streams back, or something like that. But it's like you go on about the Void stuff, the drops. Aren't they going to blow up the Void soon?
Yep.
Met the Void tiers or Void rifts.
And I'm still a little bit worried about that too, because they're talking about doing this Void Rift thing during your missions, which that's all well and good and cool, but
what's the load going to be like on your graphics for that?
Well, what's the load going to be? What's the drop chance going to be like on all this stuff now?
Because how I'm under the impression that it's going to work like an alert. Like, this thing's going to come up, it's going to say, oh, there's an Ash Prime chassis over here in this Void Tear or Void mission or whatever. You have to go there, and how I think it might work is that it's going to act as one of those missions where you have to go up to the little kiosk thing and then put the Void key in and then jump in the portal. And then that's how it's going to work, because you still have to have the key, as far as I understand. You still have to have the key to actually access that alert mission. I think it would be cool if players could just jump into that mission, even if they didn't have the key. And then whenever it comes to the console, they have to insert the right key to play the mission.
It sounds confusing. They're supposed to be simplifying things like new player experience.
I mean, they did mention removing keys because they don't like the fact that right now it's like farming for keys to go farm for a part. They find that can be tedious and can really drive people away. And I definitely agree with that. Like, half the time that I spend in Warframe is farming for keys so I can go farm for something in the Void. And that sucks because then, you spend 5 hours farming for a key. Just to get a bunch of them stacked up, and then you go to the Void and use your whatever it might be 20 keys and don't get that part you wanted. Well, now you've not only spent all that time farming for the keys, but the time farming for that part, and you still have to go back and redo it.
Mm-hmm.
No sense of achievement
at all,
definitely.
Especially when you get informed a lot.
Or
stop rotation C4,
or God forbid you get Orkin cells and stuff from the Void from your drop tables.
Like, I'm okay with those in Sabos, and as terrible as that sounds, because they're technically resource caches, so there is a chance you're going to pull out a stupid resource.
Yeah.
But, like, getting Orokin cells on, like, ODDs and, like, tier 4 defenses and survivals, like, are you freaking kidding me? Why is there credits in the rotation? And why is it so low? At least make it something viable, not like, oh, you win 10,000 credits. Like, I could have done a 5-wave run on Hurricane and walked out with 25,000. Like, come on.
Yeah, they need to definitely give players more incentive to do said types of missions instead of giving us shitty rewards such as credits.
I posted this a while back. I put this forward the suggestion that excavation missions, so you go key farming, you go credit farming and stuff, core farming. Instead of having credit drops out of each excavator, extractor, let's say, why don't they give you resources? Because technically it's digging into the earth. Why don't they give a new player, I don't know, 300 ferrite or, the elements or the resources native to that planet, as opposed to giving you a credit? You don't get credits from digging in the ground.
I definitely agree with that there, because it would also eliminate a little bit of the grind, because like one big sort of glaring issue of a player that doesn't play in forever, say he only comes back for the new content drop and it's just like a new Warframe, they come on, they spend all of their resources on that one Warframe, then the next content drop comes along and it's another Warframe, but it takes the same resources, say plastids. If that player hasn't invested a lot of time into just, dedicated a lot of his in-game time to just farming resources, he's going to have to constantly go back and forth doing that, and that's going to hinder his experience within the game. So I definitely feel like they need to tie things in a little bit more, especially with missions like this, the excavation, I mean. So I definitely think that is a positive way forward, instead of just giving cryotic over and over again. Like, say on Earth, instead of getting cryotic, you got, polymer or something. I don't know.
Ferrite, you got nano, or what?
Ferrite, nanospores.
Yeah, stuff like that. You get the native resources to that planet, only in little waves of them, like 300 here, 500 there. But as a new player, if I'd got that over the credits, I'd have been well in. I could have built weapons sooner. You get enough credits from completing the missions, especially on excavations.
Or even like rare chances to get neurodes. That'd be cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Imagine that, it may be stupid, but one extractor or whatever it's called, excavation, you got 3 neurodes out of it. Wow, that's winner for a new person. It's good.
The other thing that was brought up by some people is that we have all this cryotic in the first place. So let's say it's us old players or new players, whatever. New players get this cryotic and they can't build anything with it until what? Archwing? I think it's
pretty much.
Yeah. Archwing, the Glaxian, I'm not sure what else uses.
But somebody brought something up that maybe have a store that actually uses the cryotic as a trading currency. So you're farming up this like super resource.
Like a black market.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I believe the original lore behind the excavation missions was like, you were contacted by this shady guy who wanted you to dig this stuff up. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember the event being like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just
some credits
following up on that. Yeah.
Trade it in at a low level for, I don't know, a couple of hundred cryotic gets you, I don't know, 5,000 credits.
Yeah, and then that would give a new player's incentive to play excavation, and then if they were to tie in that with the resource farming, that would, increase the enjoyment of the game, because they wouldn't be spending so much time doing the one type of mission.
It means they've got to do work, but this, like, all these ideas, it makes it easier for the new players. They feel like they're getting a sense of achievement by being rewarded with useful stuff that they can use instantly, like these resources or, credits. For example, I can trade my cryotic in for credits, so I can actually buy a blueprint for a weapon sooner rather than later.
It's not like there isn't enough weapons and stuff to level, so it's not like, oh god, we're going to be lightening the grind load by like 5 freaking minutes. Oh dear heavens.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So I guess we kind of pondered on that topic for a little long. We have things about Steve working on Archwing movement rework, so 360-degree movement. Not too fond of Archwing. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's a shared opinion. Of course, you can look at it and you can see why it's enjoyable, but until they invest more time into it, we really can't, sit and judge it for what it is right now, because it's not in a state to be judged. It's just, lackluster, and, DE know that as well.
Archwing racing.
Yeah, that's why they're doing this movement thing, because they're trying to increase the incentive to play it.
I played a lot of it, though.
Yeah, I mean, we've all played a lot of it.
It has a lot of potential. It's just not quite there yet.
The foundation's there. It's just they need to build upon it, and they need to be more, I guess, invested in it, I want to say.
Yeah.
A lot of their work goes into the design and how fluent things feel. Example, the animations. You can never say that you've seen an animation in Warframe that looks terrible. So they put all of their work into particular aspects and not every aspect. So I definitely feel Archwing still needs a lot of work before we can even comment on it. Scott confirms Vault and Mag passives and Mesa tweaks again. So ETA is before the end of May. That's pretty nice.
And I talked to you about this. I am in love.
Design Council players, from Monday on, there will be a poll on the Design Council forums to decide the name of the new fairy-themed frame.
Yay! I have to
Tinkerbell.
I swear to God.
I just hope it's Tink. Just Tink.
Just Tink.
Tinkerbell.
Just Tink.
Tinkerbell's too long.
As long as it's not Tatiana, because literally if they name it Tatiana or Titania, I'm gonna just be like, really.
The concept for it looks amazing, though.
Yeah, it's super awesome.
No,
something we didn't touch on is the new market and how the new market works.
Oh,
I'm so happy.
Yes,
that
very
new
crisp.
UI looks definitely sick, and also the star chart rework as well. They accidentally showed that off.
Accidentally on
dare
purpose.
Accidentally, like I'm doing the thing with my fingers here, like the two little bunny rabbit ears. But yeah, Star Trek 3.0, until we get our hands on it, we can't really say if this is going to change how it works for the beginning players. Obviously, people who've been playing Warframe since, it came out, since it's in beta, still is in beta, closed beta, should I say, it was set up in a way where you're able to track your progression, like it was a little star map instead of a star chart, so it's not the sort of 3D like planet things. It was just like a map, and then you progressed up, and then it just kept on going up until you got to Pluto, and then it ended on Hades or Ambulus. So that was cool because it gave you a sense of progression, where now it's just a circle and you just don't know where the hell you're going, and you just go to key locations, example Triton and Neptune or Hyricon and Pluto, and then you feel like that's you're set for the rest of the game. The market is just sort of set. It's being put in to help the new player experience because people get confused in the market. They've added a search function,
which is great.
It's good. It just looks cooler, so whenever I'm making a video now, I'm going to be able to go to the market and search for something instead of awkwardly going through the rifle blueprints and
pages.
Yeah. So it's just kind of
wish
perks,
list,
I guess. Yeah, like a little wish list type of thing.
That's awesome.
What else is there that we could really talk about? Nothing on snipers. So
no.
They talked about it in the beginning. They kind of like, I don't know. It's like people are dissatisfied with it. I actually really like them. I just did a 40-minute survival with one. I love snipers. Specifically Vectis Prime.
Yeah, snipers. They're not. I'm not gonna say that they're. In terms of damage, they deal pretty decent damage, and you can like combo your shots together so you're able to deal more damage. However, you can see why people won't use them because of nullifiers, fast-moving enemies, etc.
Mm-hmm.
They have built-in punch-through, but what the community wants is punch-through via nullifier bubbles. And that kind of defeats the purpose of a nullifier, if not to cancel out game-breaking abilities such as Mag Shield Polarize. So, you could just bring a mag with a Vectis Prime, shoot through the bubble, then press 2. There you go, everything in the room's dead. The reason that nullifiers were implemented in the game were to stop people from just doing things like that, just pressing for the win or pressing to the win. And if they were to implement punch through via nullifier bubbles, then that would come back, and then people would complain that oh, people are getting so and so with no effort because they're just sitting there in Peacemaker, or they're just sitting there and pressing 2, and that's why that change came into effect in the first place.
Would it be fun? Oh, go on,
There's already right now, they're already talking about anyway, there's an augment that's coming out for the nullifier that's just going to pump all bubbles anyway. Now, I remember the post you're talking about, and the reason they were literally only talking about nullifier bubbles in and of themselves because nullifier bubbles in and of themselves don't have any innate armor. They really don't. They're just this bubble of energy that stops everything. So, maybe the thing they were talking about is reworking the nullifier itself, because maybe they just need to be tankier, and you should be able to shoot through the bubble but not actually pop the bubble like we can do already, because Excalibur or a fast moving gun, they'll just mow over the bubble anyway. Like, the bubble's pretty insignificant even for new players.
Yeah, so what you're saying is make a tankier enemy within the bubble, but don't make the bubble a shield. Just make it like a transparent object that you can shoot through, but it's still going to cock block your abilities. Yeah, exactly. I definitely agree with that.
Because, I mean, we already have the one frost bubble Corpus guy that already exists.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name. But, I mean, that, not being able to shoot through that, fine. That is a frost wall, basically. Mobile bubble. We can't shoot through that. That's fine. But having sniper rifles to shoot through, like, it's a sniper rifle. You know what I'm saying? It's the strongest weapon in the bloody world, and even in this game, they just feel very lackluster with damage. They have the same fall off over distance, so at long range, they still do the same damage that any other gun would do.
What if they introduced a sniper that did, say, an energy-based round that could actually penetrate it, as opposed to making all snipers able to do it?
So like a railgun?
Yeah, that would introduce like a whole new kind of weapon, though.
Yeah, it would.
And then people would be constantly looking for that said type of weapon because it would be so useful. And then whenever a weapon that was kind of lackluster under that category came out, then they would just write it off as a weapon that's borderline useless.
Miter.
The miter. Well, it's hard, isn't it? Nullifiers, yeah, they're annoying, but, I can just jump straight through the shield. I kill the nully, and then I hop back out to safety. I'll jump in, and I'll
makes you more invested.
Yeah, it's a bit dangerous at higher levels, but it's not. They're not overly strong. They're not too taxing. Yeah. When you've got a group of them, and you've got, say, for the void, for example, if you've got nullifiers in the void that secretly you can't see. They've got an ancient with them, or two ancients, and you jump through and try and kill them, and you can't because the ancients are mitigating the damage. You end up getting killed. So it swings in roundabouts. It's a double-edged sword. You could either have something to penetrate it, which then people would abuse constantly, and they'd end up probably taking the weapon out of the game, or burst damage. If you talk to people, aim at the shield, get rid of the shield, get rid of the ancients, then take the nully out.
See, I just find that the shields, I typically just jump through, kill the nullifier, and then I'm fine. Even if there are ancients, even if it is high level, the worst that happens is, oh, I really need to kill this guy now, instead of, oh, I'm dead. Like typically you can just jump in, shoot, and get out fast enough that you don't die. And if you do die, then, oh, you goofed. You could probably kill the nullifier and the ancient while you're on the ground, and then their team will come pick you up.
Yeah, your team will usually wipe out all the enemies with tonkers, staticas, or ability based, because you've usually got an Excalibur with you who will just mow down anything that's in front of you.
Interesting that you say Tonkor, because the next topic is actually
reworking
of the Tonkor. And let's say the brightest fires. Now, I know Sev has some pretty strong opinions about this and why nerfing particular weapons is a bad thing, so I'm going to let Sev go on with that one.
So when it comes to nerfing weapons, I'm actually, and this is going to be weird to start with, but I'm actually okay with nerfing weapons, but it has to come with nerfing to how the enemies scale. Right now, the way the enemies scale is just by giving more health and more armor and making them harder to kill, which means if you take away the top tier weapon, all you do is take away the ability to go later with those tools. Now you can switch up the weapon, but then your next weapon is just the next thing that needs to get nerfed. However, if you change the way enemies scale, instead of it being just more health and more armor, maybe they do more damage. Maybe there's just floods of enemies instead. So they send more troops instead of it miraculously that butcher you killed on wave 5 had 1/100th of the health of the butcher you killed on wave 40 or whatever it might be. Like instead of that arbitrary, now they're just really hard to kill. Now there's just 20 butchers instead of 2. Like that's, to me, that's a much more thing. It's a much better scaling in that you can then take weapons and scale down their power without having to worry about the power creep that happens with enemies or weapons.
Anubify? No comment? Okay. Well,
I'll talk about that, actually. I agree. But I think enemies that level up. So you were saying about a butcher having a bit more strength. What about him having better support units? You know how you've got what they call those skater things, the corpus ones. They nullify your abilities within a range. Why not having a support unit that increases the damage, like Severed said? They've got increased damage output, or they've got increased speed, stuff like that. Make the enemies tougher with not so much abilities, with augments. They are Grineer after all, especially Grineer styled enemies. They can do things to their bodies. It's strange, but damage wise, the leveling is well off, the scaling's well off. Your enemies will jump 30, 40 levels and become just impossible to kill, and your Tonka going is a bad thing, is a massively bad thing. But augment wise, I think they should do faster enemies, or as you say, stronger enemies, bit more variation of the Eximus units, support units for Grineer now as well. Why can't they have them?
So basically the TLDR of that is make the enemies grow stronger, except in different ways. Don't always make it so it's a flat damage, armor, health increase, but instead give them different benefits to said enemy. For example, maybe a Bombard's rocket flies a little bit faster. Maybe Butchers have increased speed. Ancients have a longer, what is it, a knockdown range, like the Scorpion type thing, where they just grab you. Things like that there would completely change up the game. Like whenever I used to be at the level where I had no idea what I was doing, Master Rank 8, all I used to do was camp in a tunnel in T4 Survival, because T4 Survival used to be the shit for getting R5 cores. And an Ancient coming and just pulling me out of there would have been the be-all, end-all, but because they don't have, like, infinite range, that never happened.
Yeah.
The only thing that I really had to worry about was nullifiers clipping through walls, which is, again, something that a lot of the community don't agree with, but we already talked about nullifiers and how they could be changed. But I think for this podcast, that's pretty much it, because we're coming up in almost 50 minutes now. So... yeah, I think that was pretty good. And to those of you watching, if you enjoyed it, please hit that like button below. It's going to be available on my channel, Anubify's, Sev's, if they decide to upload it, and also Gamer Gurus. So it's going to be on my channel, hopefully every week. If you stay to the end, thank you. You are a legend. I'm sure everyone else in the podcast agrees. But if you want more Warframe content from any of us, please hit subscribe. Any information that we talked about will be down in the description below, as well as links to all the other content creators' channels. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all in the next podcast.
Bye.